Could you survive off of just $30 a week for groceries? I'm gonna try it for the next week. Hi everyone, if you are new here, I show recipes on this channel that are cheap, healthy, and delicious. Sometimes not all three of those things, but I try to keep thrift in mind in all of the recipes that I show on this channel. I'm trying to save money right now. I know a lot of you guys are trying to save money right now. So I figured I should be authentic and just show you guys how I save money day to day with the food that I cook and eat for myself. So I have done some week-long challenges in the past. I did a raw foods week. I did a vegan week.
Hey, Ratatouille is vegan.
I did a cheap, lazy American week.
I guess I have to take the plastic off first.
And I did a paleo diet week. And I had a lot of fun doing those videos, and I want to start doing week and month-long, challenge videos again. And I thought a good place to start would be $30 for a week. I saw on Brothers Green Eats, if you guys are familiar with that channel, one of them did a $20 food week. And so I was kind of inspired by that. And I figured I'd start a little higher just to give myself wiggle room, and then maybe later I will do the $20 week. Plus, I'm dragging my boyfriend into this, and he was not too pleased when I said, hey, let's live off of $30 a week. Now, $30 a week for both of us, so $60 a week total. Let me clarify that. And my goal here is not only to only spend $30 a week on each of us. That could pretty easily be accomplished if we just ate ramen. But I wanted to also eat delicious food and healthy food, because too often it's the unhealthy food that tends to be very cheap, like ramen, and a lot of poor people are forced to be unhealthy because it's just the easiest kind of cheap food that you can eat if you're poor and you're pressed for time. So I went to Winco this morning to do most of my grocery shopping for the week, and I will show you guys my haul in a minute, but I have to explain that also I will be using some food that I already had in the refrigerator in the pantry, and some of the food that I bought for this week I'm not going to consume this week. Or parts of the food that I bought this week, I'm not gonna consume next week. For example, I bought a whole gallon of milk. I doubt we're gonna get through that whole gallon of milk this week. Me 10 years ago would have easily gotten through a gallon of milk in a week all by myself, but me now, I drink much less milk, so we're not gonna go through that whole gallon of milk. I bought a quart of cream. I'm probably only gonna use a cup of that. So we're gonna be doing a lot of math. I'm gonna be referring to my receipt, and it's not gonna be as simple as, here is everything that I bought, and these are the only things that I'm going to be eating for the week. But I will count every single penny along the way and make sure that I stay within my $60 total limit. So let's go look at my haul. This is a combination. About half of this is the stuff I just got at Winco just now, and the rest of it is stuff that I have already had in my pantry and fridge and freezer. So I have yeast and two different kinds of flour, because I'm going to make a loaf of bread. We've got rice, carrots, butter, sugar, some feta cheese, tea. This isn't like the only tea I'm going to be drinking this week. I'm just using this tea to represent it. Brown rice, some celery, and some cabbage that was left over. This is a bunch of pepper. We're obviously not going to be eating all of it, but we were out of pepper, so I decided I'd stock up. We'll probably only use a tablespoon of this, so I've calculated that out. Some smoked sausage for our 7-bean soup. And there's the beans. I got them at Winco. This whole bag was like $1.07. Some onions, a lemon, some chickpeas. I'm going to make that roasted curried vegetables with cauliflower and sweet potato. I already had these canned tomatoes and these olives. Some juice for Joshua's juice habit. More juice for Joshua's juice habit. Some pasta. I'm going to make some Greek pasta salads. A turnip for the 7-bean soup. Potatoes for the 7-bean soup and other things. We probably won't finish that entire bag of potatoes this week, so I can subtract some of that out. A whole quart of cream. I'm definitely not using the whole thing this week. I'm probably only going to be using a cup, so I've subtracted that out. some leftover artichoke hearts. And these are bulk Indian spices from an Indian store that we already had. I'm gonna go into the butter chicken. I've factored those in. 18 eggs, not sure I'm going to eat all 18 of these, but we'll see. And a gallon of milk. Not sure we're gonna drink the whole thing, probably not. So now that you've seen the mountain of food that I'm going to be consuming for the week, let's go over some numbers. So my Winco receipt actually totals $83.04. And you might already be thinking, oh, you failed. Like, no, because some of that was toilet paper and paper towels, which are not food. And then a lot of the stuff on here, I saw that frozen juice was like really cheap, so I just stocked up on it. So a lot of the stuff on here, we're not actually gonna even be eating at all because it's not edible, or we're not gonna be eating it this week. So after subtracting all of the things off of this list that we're not even going to eat, this week. The grand total for my Winco shopping haul that I just did for just the foods that we're going to eat this week is $32.79. And even some of that we might not eat because, like I said, I might not drink the whole gallon of milk. At this rate, I don't even know if we're going to eat the whole pack of chicken thighs. I got 10 chicken thighs, and I know I'm going to use 4 of those to make butter chicken. But as for the other 6, I was thinking I might roast some of them and eat them with rice, but maybe not all 6 of them. So I might be able to take a little money off there. And that's a pretty low total. But remember how I said earlier that I'm also going to be eating some of the food that was already in our house. So I'm gonna go over those items right now. So the parts of stuff that I already had, or the things that I already had in my pantry or refrigerator from previous shopping trips. We've got canned tomatoes at $1.07, 1 frozen juice at 98 cents, 1 can of olives at $1.50, the rest of the feta for $4, most of the rest of the artichoke hearts for $2, 4 cups white rice, 2 cups brown rice for 65 cents, cabbage at 75 cents, tomato at 30 cents, a cup of white flour at 12 cents, a cup of wheat flour at 25 cents, 2 teaspoons of yeast at 75 cents, 2 sticks of butter at 1.75, butter chicken spices 50 cents, celery 25 cents, carrots 50 cents, tea $3.77, and sugar 12 cents for a total of $21.26 of the food that I already had and I'm going to be adding in. And that brings our grand total so far to, drumroll, $54.65. So I'm a little bit under $60, which is perfect. That's what I wanted. I wanted just a little bit of wiggle room. And it's a good thing that I have a little bit of wiggle room because I was realizing as I was going over my loot that I bought, I was planning on making a Greek pasta salad this week. And it's been so long since I've made it, I just forgot, wait a minute, I need like tomatoes and cucumber and parsley for that. And I didn't get those things. But it's a good thing I didn't get them at Winco because they're actually a lot cheaper at this local Indian, Mexican, Middle Eastern market that I go to. So I'll just go there tomorrow to get the parsley, the tomatoes, and the cucumbers. And that should basically put me like at 60. But as I mentioned before, I'm going to be able to subtract a little bit. I'm not going to drink the whole gallon of milk. I highly doubt that. I don't know if I'm going to eat all 18 eggs. I don't think I'm going to eat the whole bag of russet potatoes that I bought. I'll be able to make some subtractions there, which is a good thing because I'm going to need a little bit of oil, which I already have. I don't know how much oil I'm going to need yet. And I'm also going to need a little red wine vinegar for the Greek salad as well. So I will factor those in as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to cheat. And now I'm ready for the week. So the first meal in our cheap week, I'm starting at lunch on Saturday because I still had some leftovers that if I didn't eat them, they'd go bad. So I had the leftovers for breakfast this morning. So we're starting the week officially. Lunch right now on Saturday. It's going to finish officially breakfast next Saturday. So it all works out. We are having roasted chicken thighs with rice and peas and a little butter to season the rice and peas. I had this like all the time growing up and in my college years. It's cheap, it's easy, and the peas and the rice form a complete protein. So yay.
That was fucking adorable.
And all of this lovely drippings, all the fat in there, I am going to save that and I'm going to fry potatoes in it later. And I'm also going to save the leftover bones in this chicken and make broth to use in a soup later this week. I love tea and consequently I have 3 to 4 cups of tea daily. So to account for that money-wise, I basically took kind of the average price of all of my teas and figured out what that would be for 30 tea bags or for 30 servings of tea because I also drink loose leaf tea. And then 1 of my cups of tea per day I have with just canned milk. And I go through pretty much 1 can of canned milk per week. And then another one of my cups of tea, or 2 if I have 4, is with no additives at all. It's just the tea. And then 1 of my cups of tea per day I have with 1 teaspoon of sugar and 2 tablespoons of cream. So if you multiply the 2 tablespoons of cream by 7, that almost gets me about a cup of cream. I have a little bit of wiggle room in case I decide to have an extra cup of tea with cream and sugar at some point during the week, which is why I'm only accounting for 1 cup of the quart of cream that I bought. Told you there was going to be a lot of math in this video. And I happen to be drinking Ahmed's Strawberry Sensation tea right now. I really love it. It tastes really good. I just came back from the local Indian, Middle Eastern, and Mexican market. They sell really cheap produce, really cheap everything. Seriously, guys, find the local, hate to use the word, but ethnic market in your area, and you're bound to get some really good deals. I got some out-of-season cherry tomatoes, 2 out-of-season cucumbers, and this bunch of parsley for just $5.06. Now I know by my original calculations that would put me at like 50-ish cents left remaining, but I did some math and I committed to only drinking half the gallon of milk this week and only eating half the bag of potatoes this week. Because again, I'm pretty sure I'm only going to drink half a gallon of milk and eat half the bag of potatoes, so I added an extra few bucks on, so I still have a few dollars to play with, and that's good because I need to account for the red wine vinegar and the olive oil that I'm going to use in the vinaigrette for my Greek salad that I'm going to make pretty soon. That's like why I got those extra vegetables down there for the Greek salad. And I'm gonna need a little more here and there for like vegetable oil, although I don't think I'm gonna need to use much added vegetable oil this week because between the chicken fat that I'm rendering and then the sausage fat that's going to render for the bean soup, I'm not gonna need that much added oil. But I have a few dollars left over to play with, which is always good. I don't want to run out of money. Hey, it's day 3 and I'm making that Greek pasta salad for the 3rd time, and last night when I made it for the 2nd time, I made a realization when I was calculating the olive oil and realizing, wow, 3 tablespoons of olive oil is expensive. It's like 37 cents for 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And so I realized, wait a minute, these artichoke hearts are marinated in basically oil and a little bit of vinegar and basically all the ingredients that I put in a salad dressing anyway. So last night I used this instead of the olive oil, and then I reduced the vinegar a little bit, and I'm gonna do the same thing today because it worked yesterday. I am prepping a lot of things right now for the next few days. I'm cooking some chickpeas, so always, if you want to save money on legumes, always buy them dry. They're always cheaper, they last longer, they take up less space, they don't have that gross tin can taste to them, they're not overly salty, you can cook them in flavorful things like broth and make them taste better. Buy your legumes dry. So I'm just cooking my chickpeas for tomorrow's dish. And then I am also turning the leftover chicken bones from the 10 thighs that I bought this week, as well as some leftover carrot, celery, and onion trimmings that I have been creating over the past few weeks and keeping in the freezer. I'm gonna turn all of that into chicken broth. You might think, oh, you're cheating by using, you know, vegetable scraps that you already had in the freezer, but in the rest of this week I am going to be producing more carrot, celery, and onion scraps that are gonna go in the freezer for a future batch of broth. So I'm not cheating. Well, it's really simple. You just take the leftover chicken bones, cooked raw, it doesn't really matter. This is some more leftover chicken bones with some green onion bits and some yellow onion bits, and looks like maybe some carrot shavings. This is a lot of carrot shavings and some onion bits, and some more carrot shavings, onion bits. Actually, I don't know if there's any celery in this batch. It's like mostly carrot. I'm going to simmer that for about 3 hours and we'll have chicken broth. So you may see to my right, your left, I have a bunch of ingredients with which to make whole wheat bread. Now, as cheap as bread is at the grocery store, especially cheap bread, if you make it yourself, it is even cheaper and tastier, and there's no preservatives and crap in it. So it takes a lot of planning ahead to make the bread. This recipe, it takes about 4.5 to 5 hours start to finish, and I always like to have the end piece nice and thick, fresh out of the oven when I first make the bread. So I have to like time it perfectly and like count backwards from when I want to eat it. So I want to eat it at like 6 today, so it's like 1:30 right now as I'm starting to make this bread. That bread mixture more than double. That's awesome. Punch it down, knead it, and let it rise again. It tastes better if you've let it risen twice. Is the beginning of day 4 because we're about to have some lunch and I'm going to make a mixed bean soup. I cooked the beans in the chicken broth that I made yesterday from all the leftover chicken bones and vegetable scraps. And as I said, I'm about to make some more vegetable scraps right now because there's carrots and onions and celery in this soup. I'm also supplementing with a little frozen homemade turkey broth that I made. And this stuff really is free because I made it with leftover carcass from a free turkey that I got for spending $100 at Winco. So the turkey was free to begin with, and then I made it with parts that people would have thrown away anyway, along with vegetable peelings that people would have thrown away anyway. So I count that broth as free. And I also got some smoked sausage to put in there. It'll give it a really nice flavor. And some protein, and some fat, and some calories. Oh, also not pictured potatoes. Realizing also just looking at my loot that I'm not going to use all that cabbage in this soup. I'm probably only going to use like a third of the cabbage that I have left in this soup. I'll probably leave the whole half of the purple cabbage. And when I cooked up the chickpeas yesterday for the roasted curried vegetable dish, I realized it's way more chickpeas than I need for that dish. So I think I'm going to do like a salad with roasted chickpeas, the artichoke heart marinade that I have left over in the jar as a dressing base, and some shredded carrot maybe, and hard-boiled egg, and crispy chickpea. I think that'll be a really nice little salad, maybe tomorrow or the day after. Get ready for the farts. That's good.
They don't have to be nice to me if you want any love.
So it is day 5? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday, day 5. And I'm having for my breakfast this time, I realized I've barely been eating any of the 18 eggs I bought. I'm probably only going to eat half of them, so I'll be able to give myself back some money from that, which is great because we're like down to 18 cents extra right now. And it looks like Joshua might need a little more juice than I thought that he would. So it'll be nice to be able to, you know, just only eat half the eggs and then only charge myself for half the eggs. But anyway, eggs fried in better butter on some homemade toast. I'm out of bananas, so I realized I needed a little bit extra calories in the morning. So I got 3 days left of this challenge. And we're getting into the, it's funny, the first half of the week was very like meaty and more expensive food. And the second half of the week is like a little less extravagant and more plant-based. That's kind of how my regular weeks go. This week isn't actually that atypical. It is a little less. I am spending a little less money and I am starting to feel it a little tiny bit. I'll be like, oh, I want to use this herb or this spice in this dish. But like, oh wait, I can't because that would cost me like 15 cents that I don't have. But I've planned everything out and it looks like we're gonna make it. And I'm excited. Since it is my day off today and I'm gonna be just binge watching a bunch of Netflix, I decided for lunch I would have a big bowl of this popcorn. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, that popcorn looked kind of nice and fancy. It was a gift, so this is technically free. And with it, I'm having a nice cup of tea with cream and sugar. And a cat. It is day 6 of my $30 week, and I'm having for breakfast, I'm gonna call these chicken fried potatoes because I fried them in the chicken drippings from baking off a bunch of chicken thighs. So there was a bunch of like cracklings, like little bits of very concentrated chicken juice and like skin and stuff that form. And when I cooked these potatoes just now, I covered them so that the cracklings would get off of the bottom of the pan and they attach themselves to the potatoes. So these potatoes are so good. They're like fried chicken. And I still have like 1.5, looks like, tablespoons of chicken fat left in the pan, which is enough to fry another couple servings of these fried potatoes, which is good because I have 2 more breakfasts left after this one. Looking pretty good today. I'm gonna eat mostly repeats, I think. I'm gonna have more of those curried veggies and rice probably, and definitely have some of that bean soup. Maybe have some more of that free popcorn from our friends. And tomorrow on day 7, I'm gonna pull a little surprise out of my sleeve. I realized I still had a lot of milk left, so I am brewing some tea in it. Okay, I know I said I'd be doing mostly leftovers today, but it turns out I still have 2/3 of that can of tomatoes left over. I still have like a whole onion left over, and I still have a little bit of garlic left, and I did some calculations, and after accounting for the fact that I'm only eating 1/4 of the bag of potatoes, not half the bag of potatoes, and I'm only eating half the eggs I bought rather than all of them, I realized that I have enough money to add some Italian seasoning and some red wine to the sauce like I usually do, and I have some pasta still to go with that. And I did calculations because Joshua was very upset at the prospect of not having Parmesan cheese with his pasta with sauce. I did some calculations and determined actually we could afford to put some Parmesan cheese. Probably on both of our pastas we could afford it, but I'm not taking that risk, so I'm just putting Parmesan cheese on his portion because Parm is very expensive. And I'll leave my own pasta Parmless because that will still leave us with a little over $1 left of wiggle room. I'm mostly concerned that he has enough juice to drink, because if he runs out of juice, he's going to drink juice, no matter what. So I want to make sure he has enough money for that. Eating the last bowl of this mixed bean soup. 1 fewer serving than I thought we were going to have, but that's okay because we still have 2 servings of curried veggies left, and we still have 2 pieces of homemade bread left, and we still have some hard-boiled eggs, and we still have some free popcorn, and we still have lots of potatoes and leftover chicken fat and milk. And that surprise that I'm gonna conjure up tomorrow. So day 7 of our little experiment, my boyfriend just bought a Coke for $1.74. So that's like zeroing us out a little bit, but it looks like we're not gonna finish eating all the butter I thought we were gonna eat, so I'll be able to give myself a little more money back. Looks like we're still in the clear. I am just getting ready to roast some chickpeas. The rest of the chickpeas that I had, I'm gonna make crispy chickpeas, and they're gonna go in a salad that I'm gonna make in about an hour. I've always wanted to roast chickpeas, and I've never done it before, so new things. I'm using like the rest of the rendered chicken fat from earlier in the week, and I might supplement with like a little tiny splash, a few cents of vegetable oil. We are on my final lunch of the week, our final lunch actually, and this is the magic dish I am conjuring up. I'm gonna make a homemade mayonnaise out of my last egg yolk, my last raw egg yolk. I hard-boiled some eggs, which neither of us ate yet. We still have like 5 hard-boiled eggs. So I'm using my last raw egg yolk to make a mayonnaise, and I'm combining it with the artichoke marinade solution because, as I mentioned earlier, that's mostly oil. There's a little vinegar, a little seasoning, and that's basically the correct ratio to use to make mayonnaise. You just do egg yolk and mostly oil, a little vinegar, a little, seasoning, and you got mayonnaise. So I'm gonna make a homemade mayonnaise dressing out of the artichoke heart marinade, the raw egg yolk, and I got my second to last clove of garlic that I allotted myself, so I'm actually 1 clove extra. That's probably like, 5 cents maybe, so yay! And then I have the rest of the cabbage and the rest of my carrot that I'm gonna put in there, as well as the crispy chickpeas that I roasted, and the aforementioned hard-boiled eggs. I'm gonna put some of those in there as well. So that'll be lunch. It's like really late though, it's like past 2 o'clock. Leper! Turns out I'm not using this final quarter of my purple cabbage, so more money saved. And the Last Supper. This is more of those curried cauliflower, carrot, sweet potatoes, chickpea, and rice. And it's my second to last meal of this week. If my boyfriend doesn't get peckish later tonight and eat the remaining 2 pieces of homemade bread, I will be having that toasted tomorrow morning for breakfast, along with the customary tea. Oh, and I'm also drinking the rest of my half gallon of allotted milk. I realized I would not be able to finish all of the butter that I thought I was going to eat, so that means I'm able to afford this cup of red rooibos tea for 25 cents. I'm currently 1 penny over budget if you don't count the butter because of this guy's Coke addiction, but I can afford this now. My last meal in my $30 week. The rest of the homemade bread with some toast. And a coughing cat in the background.
Actually, that was a sneezing boyfriend.
As I mentioned last night, I was like 1 penny over from having the extra cup of tea. But, as you can see, I did not eat all the butter. I allowed myself this whole container of butter, and I only ate about 2/3 of it. So I don't know the math off the top of my head of what that uneaten portion costs, but it surely costs more than 1 penny, so I made it! There's also still this uneaten egg white, too! I made it! That was a very interesting week. It's been a few days now since I finished the $30 per person week challenge, and I just wanted to recap the things that I learned. As I suspected, the week wasn't that hard in the sense that I ate mostly dishes that I would normally cook for myself anyway when I'm trying to save money, and even in spite of that, we managed to eat some pretty nice, more expensive dishes. Like that Greek pasta salad, I think was probably the most expensive thing that we had. And if I really were trying to save money, I definitely would not have made that. And again, the only reason that I did end up making that is because I had these like leftover ingredients from my Greek pizza things like the feta that might go bad if I didn't use it within a week, and I thought I better use that up before it goes bad. But other than the Greek pasta salad, like most of those meals I felt were, you know, cheap, but not like super cheap. So they were very reasonable for a $30 week. Now, as you can see, there's a stereotype that if you're vegetarian or vegan, your meals are going to be a lot cheaper, and that's just not true. It depends on what kind of protein you're buying and what kind of vegetables you're buying. But if you buy a lot of expensive, out-of-season vegetables, that can be more expensive than eating an omnivorous diet. As you can see, that chicken was very cheap. Now, that's another issue entirely. The United States government subsidizes those farmers, so meat is kind of artificially cheap in the United States, at least. And the other thing about meat, dairy, eggs, and all that in the US and a lot of places, they're not necessarily ethically raised. And it's really sad, like if you want to eat meat that is ethically raised, if you want to consume dairy and eggs that are more ethically raised, it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg here. So in that regard, it is cheaper to be vegan, especially if you're only eating local in-season fruits and vegetables with your grains and your legumes and nuts, etc. But I don't think people should be shamed for being poor and not being able to afford maybe the more ethically raised stuff. It's a big moral dilemma that we each have to face individually and make our own decisions accordingly. For me, I usually do try to buy the more ethically raised meat, and I buy dairy usually that has no hormones and no antibiotics and such, and the same with eggs. But you can't really do that if you're trying to save a lot of money. So it's just something to consider. But you also have to consider when you're planning for cheap cooking like this, not just how much food you're getting, like volume-wise, but you have to consider how many calories you're getting. And a chicken thigh has a lot more calories than like, you know, a little head of radicchio. Even though they're the same size, they are very, very different calorically. And you have to think less about your micronutrients, like your vitamins and minerals, etc., and think more about your macros. Just think about getting enough carbs, protein, and fat, and some fiber. But what is universally cheap is grains. If you want to save money, eat grains. And one thing you may have noticed and might take issue is the fact that I incorporated so many things that I had bought previously, and I calculated, you know, the exact cost, like per teaspoon or per tablespoon of the various ingredients, and incorporated them in. Whenever I've seen any other videos of people like trying to live off of, you know, $20 for a week or $40 for a week or whatever, it's always self-contained. They'll go to the grocery store, they'll spend their $40, and they will only eat the stuff that they bought for $40. I just didn't want to do that because I feel like that's very unrealistic, in that we never like go exactly week to week. There's always some sort of carryover. There's always something that we didn't eat all of the previous week, and then we can eat the rest of it the next week. And then there's always something that you buy during the current week that you're not going to finish. And it just allows you to have a lot more of a variety in your diet if you calculate things mathematically versus just physically, this is the stuff that I bought this week. It also lets you buy things more in bulk. Like, it's great to be able to go to Winco and buy like just a cup of rice at a bulk price, but I don't want to do that if I already have this giant bag of rice that I bought. It's like, I don't want to buy yet another cup of rice when I really am legit trying to save money in real life. So that's why I didn't do a completely self-contained week of like, I only eat the groceries that I bought in that one grocery shopping trip. That's why there was a lot of math. But my goal was to not just eat less than $30 throughout the week, but to like get as close to $30 without going over it as possible. Because I wanted to really show what that looks like if you're only spending $30 a week on food. So I was really happy that I was able to do that. But then with the math, it also got kind of annoying because I'd periodically throughout the week be like, you know, 10 cents over the budget. And so I'd have to go back and look at the other things that I had written into the budget, like my eggs, and be like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna eat all of the eggs, so I can subtract half of them out, and now I'm under budget again. You know, I had to keep going back and forth and doing that. And then I had to negotiate, like by the end of the week, I was negotiating like, oh, can I afford to have, you know, an extra cup of tea today? I really feel like relaxing to a nice cup of herbal tea, but I don't know if I can afford that because that's like another 20 to 25 cents, depending on which kind of of tea I drink. Oh, then I also have to talk about the very small elephant in the room, the fact that I was doing this with a partner, and getting your partner to adhere to your own rules can be difficult sometimes. He was a really good sport in general, and he does eat a little bit less than I do, actually, which is bad. I mean, he has a lot of health problems and he's sick, so he can't particularly help that. But if he had been eating the number of calories that he should have been eating every day, we would have had to make some minor adjustments here and there. But if you note, like, he spent almost $2 at the end of the week on a Coke, which, while it has a lot of sugar calories, it's not really filling, and it's definitely not good for you and not nutritious in any way. I mean, he could have, for that price, he could have had like a bunch of potatoes, like throughout the entire week. Like, I was eating potatoes all throughout the entire week, and it would have nourished him just as much if he were eating the number of calories that he should have been eating, and it would have given him a little more substance other than soda. But he's addicted to soda just like I'm addicted to tea. If I hadn't been drinking tea, I would have saved at least $4 this entire week, which is pretty significant. I mean, I could have, you know, easily bought a dozen organic eggs for like $4, and it's a lot more nourishing than a bunch of cups of tea. So re-examining your food addictions that are not very nutritionally dense is something to consider when you're looking at saving money with food. Will I do another one of these with a lower budget? I'm probably going to, because like I said, we had the expensive Greek salad and there were other ways I could have made some cuts. I don't know if I'm gonna go directly down to $20 for a week, or if I'm gonna try $25 in the week first. And I don't know if I'm going to include my partner with me next time. We'll see. But I do wanna do a lot of other challenge videos like this in the future. I want to expand some of these and do a challenge for a month instead of for a week. So if you have any ideas for challenges, like a day challenge, a week challenge, a month challenge that you want me to try, let me know in the comments. Just to warn you, I'm not gonna do the 10,000 calorie in a day challenge. That one's right out. But everything else is fair game. Thanks for watching, and I hope you give some budget meals a try yourself.